Yeah, Rich here and Linda. It's good to see you today.
Good to see you too.
Yeah,
Good to be anywhere today.
Yeah, it is. Yes. This is the Rancho United segment of YouTube, where the Rancho Community Church has its programming. And one of the things that you and I are doing, because we're a part of it, is we're going to do a segment on Celebrate Recovery.
Yes.
A lot of people just still don't know what it is. Some people have had it in their background. Some people are wondering, is that for me or not? So we're going to do three things. I'd like to try to do three things with you today, if I could, Linda, because you represent so much of what's going on there from the female point of view and obviously from where I sit. And that is, we'd like to talk a little bit about what is Celebrate Recovery. What does it do? Who is it for? Why do we like it? And that kind of thing. What does it do to work? Secondly, I'd like to interview you because you've had such an impact there, as well as what it's done to your life.
Thank you.
And then thirdly, if we could close with an invitation to invite people to get connected at rancho.tv. There's a group tab there where people can connect with Celebrate Recovery.
Sure.
So first segment is, what is Celebrate Recovery? Well, it actually started about 3 decades ago with a man by the name of John Baker in a church in Orange County, where he was an alcoholic and went to AA meetings and became a Christian. Jesus Christ was his higher power, going to church. And he said, I'm learning from both sides. I get something from these 12 steps I see in AA. I'm getting the church that I need, but there's both of them together seem to be working better for me. So he decided to marry the two and see how that they would play itself out in Christianity. And since then, these Celebrate Recoveries have, with small groups and discussions and focusing on the steps as well as learning about Christ, has spread all over the country.
Great.
It's been amazing now, over 30 years. They're still doing it at that church. It's expanding. So we started it here at Rancho Community Church 12 years ago. I was a part of the leadership of those that volunteered. And we're going to talk about what was the reason why and who it does and touches and so forth. And one of the things that I learned from it, of course, and being a part of it in my own life and coming from a broken home and drugs and alcohol and things like that, I realized there needed to be a place where I felt safe. So that was one of the things that we see right away, of course, is that people coming because they want to have a place where they feel safe. Then, as you mentioned earlier when we were talking about it, is what works best with feeling safe? Do I feel accepted? That was so very, very important. So people feel safe, people feel accepted, and there's no judgment. We treat people with dignity there, don't we?
Absolutely.
Everybody has dignity. But what is the struggles there? People are coming with all kinds of various issues, so it's not just recovery for addiction issues, even though there can be overlapping things there. We're finding out, aren't we, that people are dealing with childhood issues, right? Shame,
absolutely.
issues of pain in their past, things that were self-inflicted, risk behavior. So we deal with depression, anxiety, a variety of issues. So when we look at all of that, the thing I like about it is that every one of our groups, we have women meet with women and men with men, but every one of the groups, what it is it's facilitated by someone like yourself or myself who has a background and has struggled with things ourselves. So there's an immediate affinity, isn't there, that we connect because we've all walked a certain amount of this life together.
Absolutely.
And so we touch each other in that way. So I think it works for that reason, and obviously because God's in the center of it, where people can come in, and I see it happen all the time, and that is they say, you know what, I'm so stuck in my situation, whether it's a relationship issue, addiction issue, or financial issue, or pain in the past, I don't know if it's going to work for me. And they leave with a glimmer of hope, even the first night many times, don't they?
Absolutely, yes.
And I've asked myself that question, why so often do they leave even the first night with a glimmer of hope? And what I see when I get the feedback is because they're with people who have walked a road like they have to walk. They see light at the end of the tunnel. They see real people, authentic people, talking to one another, caring for one another, helping one another, and not judging them. It allows them to have the opportunity to open up, to be real, and to see if God can actually change some things that almost look impossible to them when they come.
Yes.
So those are some of the dynamics that work there in Celebrate Recovery. But I wanted to interview you as well and just let you share from your point of view what that I just shared and touched you, and also what you saw as you came in the first time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. I've been coming to Celebrate Recovery for almost 6 years. And when I was younger, in my 20s, I went through a period where if I was going to make a choice, it was going to be a bad one. If I had a decision to make, it was going to be wrong. And thankfully, I was able to right my ship. I was able to turn things around. But that period of time, at least in my life, left a mark. It defined me. It made me feel that I was unforgivable, unlovable, and unacceptable. And I think after that period, I started making better choices, and things from the outside looked really great. You know, I had a wonderful marriage. I have a close family. I'm not from a broken home. We get together often, and everybody loves one another. But I think inside, I felt, again, that my mistakes had defined me. I was going to be defined by that one season of life, maybe forever. And it felt to me like everyone else had a recipe for living a life that seemed happy, that seemed joyful. And I was missing several ingredients. I mean, I would go on social media and it seemed like everybody else was doing it easier, better, faster, having, tons of fun. And I just kept feeling like there was something missing in me. And I felt that it must be me. And when I came to Celebrate Recovery, it was the first time I was able to share with a group of strangers my truth without feeling judged, without feeling excluded, without feeling like I had something to be ashamed of. I felt accepted. I felt encouraged. And I think when I went there, I had, my question in my mind was, I wonder how long this is going to take before I'm fixed and I can get back out there and live my life. And 6 years later, I can tell you that God is still working on me. And that's a beautiful thing. But I have peace. I used to go through the day and I think people that have a past that they wish they could change or have a do-over, we can be really difficult on ourselves. And for me, I always felt like I lived like I had something to prove. I had to prove it to myself, to God, to others, that I really was changed, that things were better. And that kept me stuck, and it was frankly exhausting. I was trying so hard every day, and then in my mind, every mistake was magnified and every victory was minimized. And I think I was really down on myself. When I looked in the mirror, I thought, oh, if only they knew, that what I have done and the choices that I had made, I wouldn't be accepted in this church, in this group with these friends.
That's a big one, isn't it? Our private life coming out in the open.
Yeah. And so I was able to, this process encourages us to be honest. And I think I felt like I had to prove myself to God. I had to earn his love. I had to earn his forgiveness. And Celebrate Recovery to me has been a ministry that so closely resembles the walk that Jesus walked when he was on earth. He befriended sinners. He befriended the outcasts, the least, the last, and the lost. And so for people who felt like, they just didn't get it, or they were missing something, or they were pretending at life, it's been a godsend.
Yes.
A
real place where the soil seems to be rich enough where if I fail, I'm very much still connected to people.
Yes.
If I succeed, I have people that are championing me and saying, go for it.
Yes.
If I have a misstep, I don't feel like, oh boy, I'm out.
Yes.
If I grow slower than others, and I have to be honest with you, in my story, personally, I feel like I'm a very slow growth person. And so self-intimidation for me changed a lot in Celebrate Recovery and other recovery programs I've been a part of, because I had to learn Rich, you are who you are.
Yes.
Other people may seem to grow faster than you do. Get the concepts quicker. Join into the success faster. But I saw slowly but surely over time that it didn't make any difference how fast I went. It made a difference of who the people were around me. Were the people around me shaming me? Or were the people around me saying, Rich, whatever your pace of growth, we're there for you.
Exactly.
We're encouraging you in Christ's love. We're looking at things together. We're re-talking things over if we have to, re-looking at phases of things if we have to. So I never felt like I had to either get on the program, make it or else, or this program was not going to work for me.
Right, right.
I felt like it was okay to be long-term. I could slow growth into it because I'm a slow growth person. But I could get my feet under me, and if I was tripping a little bit, other people came alongside and said, Rich, I've been there. It hurt too. We're wounded healers, right?
Yes, exactly.
Where we see each other, we bleed for them at times because we see what God has done in His grace in our heart. And so I think one point we could talk about here at this point of what I bring up and what you're bringing up there is, I think one thing that holds people back, and we would use the word shame too, but I wanted to highlight failure. Do you think failure, I mean deep failure, all of us in some form or fashion have had deep things that it just, even the thought of it brings shame.
Yes.
Do you think failure in our personal lives is something that we say, I don't know if I could ever share that with a person?
Yes.
Is there a place that's really that safe where you guys just kind of touchy and then go home and, not really change? What'd you think about that?
Well, I think that the short answer is absolutely, this is a safe place. I will say, as much as I would love to say, to give one pat answer, there is not a one size fits all. This is a group, like you say, you see yourself as a slow grower. Each of us, God created each of us differently.
Yeah, He did.
And so, but the beauty is He meets us wherever we are. I used to think that I would be acceptable when I achieved a certain whatever it was. If I could just get there, I would be acceptable. And somehow that if I had enough successes to make up for my failures, then I would be sort of washed clean.
Sure.
But that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
And a self-imposed finish line for me, I was just always moving the line.
Yeah, that's what happens.
And there was a lot of fear in being that honest. But I think in this society, things like self-help are elevated, and things like, just suck it up and keep on going, and, the strong persevere and just walk through it's all kinds of things are elevated and made to be admired.
Yes.
So coming to a group and saying, I'm struggling, I'm hurting, I feel alone.
And maybe I've struggled for years.
Yes.
And I'm ashamed to admit it, that this thing hasn't just magically disappeared when I gave attention to it.
Right.
Why would it then work differently when people get together who are in similar situations? And I think that's a question that they ask themselves is, I've tried that, or I've tried something similar. And I think one of the things that you've hit on there in the positive of the relationship factor is that would the end result be better that I succeeded at something? Maybe I pushed the bar out again and I'm still not there. Or would it be better, as I've seen in your life and in my life, you end up making friendships and relationships with the Lord and with others that when you move forward, you're more flexible with yourself. There's less self-shame. There's forgiveness. There's things that we grow into where we could say, you know what, I don't know if I've accomplished as many things as I think I might have wanted to check off, but I think I like myself more.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy other people more, and now I'm self-encouraged even to help others in some form or fashion.
Right. Yeah, I think for the first time in my life, I feel like, and it's thanks to Celebrate Recovery and the friends that I've made and the groups that I've been involved in, I feel like I'm okay. I don't have anything to prove. There are certain things that I would like to accomplish, but they don't define me.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
It is huge. I think sometimes it's a bigger mark to reach that place of contentment than it is to say, oh, I fixed this, I fixed this, I fixed this, I fixed this, because so often problems aren't erased
Right.
because I try to give it attention, but yet it's still healthy to do that. So I think one of the things that we relate to in Celebrate Recovery is mental health, emotional health, moving forward isn't so much about how fast I can go or get out of this situation or change it, but what have I developed about character and emotional maturity and thinking that could say, you know what, even if this may not change, I'm handling it so much differently
Yes.
that everything becomes so much more positive, and that cycle repeats itself, and it actually brings healing in a lot of ways, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And I think, for me, I wanted to control everything. I wanted to control my image, keep up appearances. I wanted everybody to think I had it together. I wanted everybody to think, I was just sailing through. And I think that's what a lot of us feel in life, in this world, in our jobs, in society in general. And I think social media definitely exacerbates that feeling that everyone else is doing it better. And we forget sometimes that we're viewing someone else's highlight reel, and we live our life in totality.
Yes.
So that right away is, the scales are not balanced.
They're not balanced as we reflect backwards too. And I think in Celebrate Recovery again, as we look at it again a couple things, Celebrate Recovery now when we're able to get together, that's a whole different ballgame. So now we're in a pandemic, right? That's what these are all about, right? So thank you for coming out today to be a part of it.
Sure.
But I think people can say, you know what, if I did join now, what difference would it make now? I mean, I can't touch anybody, see anybody or whatever, but we have groups that are still meeting right now.
Actually, the group that I am a part of, that I've been blessed to lead, is it's called SAFE, and that's an acrostic for shame, anxiety, fear, and exposure. And I can tell you, I am pretty much the poster woman for the whole kit and caboodle. And I think even in the best of times, in normal times, there are struggles. I mean, we all have a place in us where we want to feel connected. We want to feel understood. We want to feel accepted and encouraged and safe with people. Some of us are lucky enough to have that in our families. Others are not. But with this new normal and the masks and the distancing and everything and not being able to meet in person, it's like even the most secure person, there's nothing. It feels like the ground's been shaken a bit.
It has.
There's no such thing as a schedule, a routine, a status quo. Everybody's making up a new normal as we go.
Yeah.
So this can create a lot more anxiety and feelings of isolation when we're sheltering in place. How do we feel connected? And many of the groups, we've been meeting since the sheltering in place has taken effect, we've been meeting through Zoom. We use the Zoom app.
Sure.
And I always say, I'm probably betraying my age, but it's like Hollywood Squares, everybody's in their little box. And but it's such a gift to be able to see a face with the voice and to be able to connect.
Yeah, it really is helping. And I think to kind of wrap it up as we're moving towards the end of this time, to invite people that are watching, and they've heard these things before, and we're sharing them, and they know that it's real. But when we emphasize that this is not the only thing, there's obviously therapists when people need that, pastors, there's groups and things that people are doing for health, obviously for a variety of reasons. But I think sometimes we underemphasize the importance of talking to people at a deeper level.
Yes.
That may not going to happen in our own family. This may not going to happen in a bar or someplace else like that.
Of course.
But even in our social circles. So one of the things is like, why do we measure or blend together the steps with the teaching of Christ, is because those two together, like the first lesson in 12 steps is denial. We're just encouraging people, look at these things.
Yes.
So we're even going deeper even in the sense of our questions, aren't we?
Yes.
And so even though we're getting together right now in technology, remotely and so forth, we're still saying to each other, if you feel comfortable, and that's the setting we try to create through our own experiences as well, come out from maybe that place that you're hiding, that self-shame, those issues that are bringing you down and where you're stuck and you're saying, you know what, I don't know if I can talk about my husband and what he does, or my wife or what she does, or I don't know if I can talk about the fact that I've opened a business and I'm misspending money, or I've been looking at pornography on the internet. What we're doing is just saying, this is a safe place for you to come. Meet other people
Yes.
who could say to you, we know,
Yeah.
we understand. We are also wounded healers. And so we are inviting people, aren't we, to say, talking about it, don't minimize the power of that when we're bringing God into it.
Yeah.
And how, as this evolves, we are all one day going to get back together again
Yes.
and see each other. These relationships of healing, where we're going a little deeper and then allowing people to peel back layers of onions of things that they need to deal with. Because if a person, for example, is drinking, they could have an anger problem. I mean, there's just so many overlapping layers, right?
Right.
That what we're doing, and I'll let you share one last word as I say, we want people to go to rancho.tv. That's our webpage. Click on groups and Celebrate Recovery is right there. Your video testimonial is on there and other people. They can get connected to me so we can help them get into one of these groups. But the reality of it is I think these relationships, even during the pandemic, are bringing people to a place where they can see change.
Yes.
And God is so concerned, as you said, because he loves us. Any final thoughts that you have about the groups and what you're seeing in the women? And
Just
I'll
that,
just kind of wrap it up.
For the women, I mean, our groups, people have described it as an oasis in the middle of the
Sure.
storm,
Sure.
a safe place to go. When we were meeting together, it's like, oh, finally I can get inside the cone of silence because there is anonymity and confidentiality and speak my truth and be safe. And I would encourage anybody who is at all interested or who is struggling in any way. And it doesn't have to be a huge struggle, just people that want to connect. I mean, we all have a place in us that we were designed for connection with God and with others.
With healthy healing.
And and moving and being with women, I can't solve my problems in a silo.
Yes.
I can't. I have only myself as input. I need input from scripture. I need input from other women. I need the experience of other women. And like I said, nobody's going to try to give you a manual of how to get better or how to be healed or how to get fixed and move on. But people are invested in people here.
That's so key.
And we want to encourage people. And when I left my first meeting, I felt lighter.
Yes.
That's the word I used to describe it. I mean, I was able to say things out loud that had been replaying in my mind for years.
And punishing yourself with, of course.
Yeah, and it was such a gift, such a relief to just get it out.
Yeah.
And was it
know that
scary?
everybody
Of
around you
course.
was saying, please do share.
Yeah.
We want you here.
Yes.
We're glad you're here.
It was very scary, but I would encourage anybody who just maybe thinks that they're not doing it right or they're missing something. Check it out.
And I think it's okay for us to say too, and we like to say this, is we're not going to harass people. We're not going to call them up and say, why aren't you here in the meeting?
No.
That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
It's about maintaining safe experiences, about people feeling a soil where they can say, you know what, I think I've shared things in this group that I may not have shared with anybody ever anywhere else in my life, about something that happened to me as a child or something that happened to me in my previous marriage or something that happened to me in my workforce. I know one woman that came and told me about being harassed in her workplace for 7 years. And I'm just saying it because it's so real.
Yeah.
It's not we're not here trying to point finger or judge or anything, but the realness of it was I realized the worst thing I could do was say to her, well, why didn't you get out of there?
Yeah.
That was the worst thing I could do. She needed help right where she was at.
Right.
And she needed us to understand that there's things that were complicated for her that weren't just easy to just 1, 2, 3, I'll throw this away and get away from it.
Right.
There was other factors. And I think that's why I like Celebrate Recovery too, along with church, of course. We have online services every Sunday here. Is that we can say to people, wherever that complication is with you and that difficulty that you're struggling with, let us help if we can.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're here to
Absolutely.
do. So thank you for wearing your mask.
I know, it
get
was
to
a
wear
little
my mask,
cumbersome, but
we're trying to do the best we can.
Yeah.
But people can reach out and we'll help them get connected.
Yeah. And one thing that I would like to say is, it's not about changing our circumstances. I used to think if only this would get better, if only this person would do what I want them to do, I'll be happy.
Oh, yeah.
But the way I see it, because I'm a very visual person, it's sort of like a fog. The peace of Jesus, the peace of Christ has been described in the Bible so many times it surpasses all understanding. And the best visual I can use to communicate it is in my life, not every circumstance was fixed. There are still relationships that are difficult.
Yes.
There are still issues that are unresolved. But it's like a fog has come in over a neighborhood, and that represents the peace. And it's just a blanket that just makes everything feel softer and better.
Working together.
Right. And it's like the street might still have a pothole, the house might still need paint, but there's this peace.
And it's presence of God, and that's what we bring to it.
Yeah.
And I would just mention lastly, and then we'll exit from here, is that's one of the things I think was why they created the Celebrate Recovery Bible for those that might be tuning in to see, is because it helps them take that next step. Is there's stories in the Bible that they put in there, testimonies like yours. There's 30-day devotionals where they can get started and take steps every day to read the scripture. It helps them find where that scripture is at, what the meaning of it is, and so forth, just to help people take a next step.
Right.
And that's maybe one of the best things you and I can close on today is if there's anybody in tune here saying, what am I going to do? Just take a next step and contact us, and we'll help walk you through it as best we can.
Absolutely.